Hi, I'm Ivo Boniolo, and you are listening to GUT Talks, GUT.
Cool. So today's guest is Ivo Boniolo. Back when he was doing his PhD in automation engineering, Ivo had to book a computer room 24 hours in advance just to run neural networks. He's an inventor. He co-founded one of the most well-known Italian venture builders, and he's now focused on building an entire business operated by AI agents. He's also a judge at the CES Innovation Awards and invests in early-stage projects when he sees real potential. He doesn't talk much about what he's building, he just builds it. Today, we're going deep into what he's learned. Hi, Ivo.
Hi, Maria. How you're doing?
Good, good. Excited for this one. So you and I met back in 2018, I believe, thanks to Francesco Inguscio, right?
You're
He's
right.
the one
You're
who...
right.
Yeah.
He's a really common friend of a lot of smart people working in innovation.
Yes, he is indeed. And he created this community, curated community, let's say, that we're part of. So yeah, let's get started. I'm excited about this one. And you've been on this journey from, PhD into building companies, spinning off technologies, and now diving deep into AI, like back to how you started in a way. So maybe let's start with your PhD story. You're at Politecnico di Milano. You have to book a computer room a day in advance. That's what you told me when we last met. So
yeah, you're right. So the story is quite, basic in the sense that at that time, that seems like 50 years ago, but indeed it's just 15 years ago. There was no computational availability, for sure, something that could be low cost available for students for developing a neural network. And at that time was not really a complex neural network. It was used for a navigation system. So there was first attempts of self-navigation systems for mobility. And to train this basic neural network, which target was for defining the position of a mobile vehicle in a space, you had to really book the cluster of Politecnico di Milano, like 24 hours in advance, run the training of the neural network during the night for hours, like 7-8 hours, and then you get the results the morning later. And then if you fail, if the neural network does not converge, or the result was not good as you expect for the research, you have to restart everything again. So indeed, it was just like I want to say an attempt of understanding how good neural network was for this application, but indeed you didn't get really good result, and you cannot really talk about artificial intelligence at that moment.
So fast forward to today, we're almost in 2026. You can spin up like more computer power than you had in your entire PhD, I guess, in like a few seconds.
Yes, that's exactly like this.
So what was going through your mind when you saw the potential?
Yesterday, I had a really interesting conversation with some smart guys talking about the potential of AI. So that's the perfect question. And basically, I used to explain the potential of AI with just some numbers. You know that you can easily Google which is the capabilities of AI, referring to the ability of an artificial intelligence of compute floating operation. And if you see the time graph of the peak that is reached today from the well-known AI in terms of flop, it's exponentially growing. And then you compare these capabilities to the number of GPU that NVIDIA has deployed in the latest 10 years. Let me say until the end of 2024, the same timeline. Then you see like a linear deployment with an exponential growth in terms of capabilities of AI, of compute. So let me say making tons of operation. And you easily can see that from now to the next 5 years, the rate of deployment of GPU from NVIDIA will have an exponential growth. So instead of being linear, it will be exponential. And that's basically what is impressing me. So if today you have a really democratic, powerful AI that you can access just with a prompt from your website, that it's able to simulate for some operation the same level of performance of a graduated student. And until now, again, has been a linear deployment. Do you imagine what can happen in the next 5 years with an exponential deployment of the capabilities of computing flops that will go, to a level that really, for me, it's difficult to be imagined in terms of what you will be able to do. Or in other, you can say that for sure a lot of these capabilities will be used for using more data for training, because as you know, as of today, one of the biggest challenges of AI is the matter of hallucination, and hallucination is basically related to the amount of data that you use for training. More computational capabilities will means that you will go deeper and deeper in training using more and more data. That's really what today is impressing me.
So I'm going to get back to this in a second. I want to just take a step back and delve a little bit into what you've been doing for the last 10, 12 years. You tell me.
15 years.
You studied
10 years, 10 years.
10 years. Okay. So, and then we will bring AI back. So you were managing innovation processes. So is there something you can share about innovation models that you have seen, that you have built? And the reason I'm asking this question is, it's kind of two questions in one, is how you could have imagined things or done things differently if you had what we have access to today.
That's a really good question. So for sure, I will try to make more resilient companies. What I've learned, as you said, that I basically been involved since I graduated, during my PhD in transferring technologies from academic to the market. Different role, mainly entrepreneurial role, as also as an advisor. So to help other companies, help other startups in doing the same in a lot of different fields. And I saw a lot of models, not just in Italy, internationally. And what I've learned is for sure that every industrial cluster there should develop its own model of transferring technology from the academy to the market. As I've seen in the last 15 years in Italy, we have tried to simulate the business models of other countries, of other economic regions. And if I have to, let me say, give my understanding of the final result, until now has been a fail, because I say something simple, but Italy, it's really, Italy as Europe in general has its own characteristic, and the big characteristic of the Italian and European countries is that they are deeply manufacturing. Okay, they are deeply involved in manufacturing lines. So we export a lot of physical goods, and we have been known all around the world for the goods exported in other economical areas. Instead of trying to use the technology transfer to improve, let me say, this ability, we have tried to use this technology transfer to create a parallel economy. We can say something from physical to digital. Okay, so we have tried to create the economy of digital. My point of view is that, again, until this point, even if we have really good companies, we can name a lot of them, but not saying that has been a complete fail, but for sure is not an ecosystem what we have developed. So it's just by cases, something that happened, some magical, let me say, intersection of opportunities for which some entrepreneur have been able to develop a really amazing companies in the fully digital. Okay, what I think that is missed until now is the opportunity of mix somehow the digital framework with the manufacturing line, okay, with the manufacturing process. And this is where I see big potential as of today. What I mean with this is that not that the AI is going to control the manufacturing line, even because we are close to this. If you go to visit some manufacturing line, there are some manufacturing lines that are so automated, so controlled by robots that they can be easily compared to something that is 90% controlled by artificial intelligence systems. They can be algorithm, they can be something easy, something complex, but they are really 90% already at that point. The real integration is because we can jump from the production line to the process of controlling. So it's something that is related to the management of the manufacturing system. That means the management of the company. So AI, it's able to produce for management what robotics and automation has produced almost 2 centuries ago in the manufacturing system. And this is basically where I see the big opportunity. And that's why I said in the beginning, for sure, what is missing to me, it's AI for make innovation more resilient, to be more resilient in terms of freezing my know-how inside of the company as an asset that can be sometimes independent also by people. That's true. Something that it's important. It's to freeze something that you can let grow autonomously independently by the people that had created this asset. While as of today, a lot of the startups that I've been involved in which I've been involved, they are strictly related to the presence, or let me say, the inventor, the people that has promoted this initiative since the beginning. That sometimes they can become also the problem of scale up somehow. I know that
So,
this is not a really good concept in the sense that for sure not a lot of people will agree with this, but that's my experience.
so maybe we because as you said, you worked in multiple industries from mobility to healthcare to the next one. I'm not gonna highlight that just yet. Or you've taken things from an idea to commercialization, and now you're adding the layer of AI and generative AI, which is the newer bit in a way. In that sense, could you give an example just to make it more tangible for the people who are trying to understand what you just explained?
Yeah, I mean, every day people took some decision with some method that you can call it as algorithm that remain in the mind of the person that took that decision, even simple decision. Okay. And basically this decision, it's a process of control. I mean, as an automation engineer, that's really a process of control. You have some data, some evidence of what you want to manage. You have a good understanding of the scenario. That means you made a model in your mind of what's going on. And then you take, based on this data and the model, so your understanding of the scenario, some specific decision. If you apply this concept in the more common field of automation and control, this is really trivial. That's something that has been done from decades. In the sense that every mobility system that you can see on the road apply this schema for identify which is the system that you want to control, design the electronic control system, and then advance in the technology. And it's true in the industrial fields, it's true in the aerospace, everything works like this as of today. You can do now the same thing with basically using AI as a system for modeling complex systems. So when you start prompting with ChatGPT, what you are really doing is to implement, based on your prompting, a model in ChatGPT, able to understand what you would like to do. This is a model. The data is your know-how that you are transferring somehow to ChatGPT. When you create this model, you basically have created an algorithm, some software, some part of software around which you can start to apply control strategy to obtain a certain specific KPI. Okay. And this is basically something that you have every day. Every decision that you keep, it's under this umbrella in terms of concept. I want to make you an example. Okay. So today you can already control, not control, but let me say, having a really amazing understanding of a sales funnel in a direct to consumer with a digital framework, making things really, really easy. You can basically analyze step by step, which is the conversion rate, the expenditure, the cost of each jump from one step of the other of the funnel. Okay. And you can already define which is the amount of investment that you want to have for a specific channel. And then you have an algorithm that it's proposed by the provider of the media that manage the expenditure for the time that you have just defined. So you want to make advertising in LinkedIn, you define that you want to spend a certain amount of time, reach a certain type of people, and then you launch your campaign. This is already really, really advanced. Now you can apply this, for example, if you want to analyze like an A/B test has been done many, many times, which is the advertising and the marketing that it's better for you. And all of these steps collect data and are information for a model. The step from this to fully controllable AI system, an agent that manage for you, which is the position on LinkedIn of your profile, it's really the last 5%. Okay. So it's really just the last 5%. Why you need AI? Because the funnel can be really well described, but overall, the entire system as a human, as a lot of human in the loop. So you want to create a model of the human to which you are referring. And creating a model of the human to which you are referring, it's really complex. That's where you need AI. The last step, you want to have a model of how your people, your customer will react. And once you have all of these elements, so you have a funnel that it's already digitalized, you have an AI that it's trained with information so that you can have a model of, let me say, software description of your final customer. You just need to act on the rules of control, and you can basically create a agent AI that manage the entire launch of a campaign on any media digital that you have in mind without the need of intervention of a human, except for once per day control that the result are match your expectation.
In your case, you get another agent that controls
Exactly. No, but that's right, because what's the problem? The problem is the matter of hallucination that I mentioned at the beginning. So the point is that you can do it, but you don't do it in this moment. Why? Because you need a layer of control. So what is named redundancy? So you have an uncertain behavior. So you have as you know very well, if you if you use the same prompt with ChatGPT, you can get different answers. Okay, that means that there is a level of uncertainty, or there is a level of probability somehow. So it's a matter of probability. What is the way in which ChatGPT answer or any AI answer to your question? How you manage this uncertainty? Uncertainty, redundancy. So you basically make the same thing parallelizing different agent that works on the same target. And then you have a final agent that is the master, or can be, let me say, hybrid with a human, that decide which of them is the right one, or that decide which of them has to be, let me say, delegated for the final decision.
Yeah, that's. I think that's another topic. The whole hallucination side. Let's see if Mira Murati's company solves it. I don't know, but I think that's what you're saying is important here, and that's that's valid for any industry, any micro business or macro business or whatever that
It's
may be.
applicable everywhere.
Yeah. So what excites you? What's exciting you about the times we're living in, really?
No, but that's really democratic. So what is amazing is that everyone today can really test this approach by its own with really simple example. I mean, if you have to compile a form, then you start to create using some tool of AI, a system that automatically compile the form, adopting the data that are provided from a database that you have populated accordingly to the target. But doing like this as of today is doable by everyone that has a good understanding of mobile application. So a digital native person really today can start and run a business almost without the need of high skilled developer. And this and again can be done by everyone. That's what it's really exciting by me. So the level of accessibility of this technology is really low. What is complex? It's the combination. So it's really like a parallel. So it's something related to the management now. So it's not the layer of operation; it's the layer of management. So it's complex is to create an organization of agent, or as I call it, an internet of models that works as you expect. That's really the tricky point.
So you've previously managed a large team, I would say. Would you like to manage agents?
I would like to manage people that manage agents. So indeed, I don't expect that in the future, especially if you want to really, as I said, create an hybrid business between real economy and digital process. So I want to sell real product to real people. That's basically what I wanted to obtain. So
Yeah.
I need a part of human in my business, a big part of human in my business. But I want to have an organization that is able to use agent to make the operation much more efficient than what are all the comparable of today. So what is my expectation? If I had to give a percentage, 30% of the operation managed by humans, 70% of the operation managed by agents. Okay. And I think that if you really look today in almost every business is already like this. Just 30% of the time is invested in what is added value. 70% of the time is invested in managing troubles in the operation. Sometimes the business is a business of operation, then for sure, if you do not optimize the operation, you cannot survive in that business, but it's not
Obviously.
always like this.
So you built a few things to have fun. What's the first thing you built, and when was that? Like around what time?
It was 2008. It was, let me say, a startup made between Politecnico Milano and University of Bergamo for electronic system for the motorcycle industry. That was in 2008. The last things in which I have invested is a franchising.
Okay, completely unrelated. Okay. What got you there?
Let me say that everyone needs a good, let me say, portfolio in terms of risk management. Sometimes to manage
Yeah.
the risk, physical operational business are still a good.
Yeah, no,
That's the
and you need
reason.
to diversify, right? So
Yes,
it's
yes, of course.
and so when generative AI came out, what is the first thing you built? And around what time? Is it when
No, I mean,
the
in the first years where generative AI was, let me say, exploding, I was too involved in my previous life, entrepreneurial life. So
Mhm.
I didn't have the chance to go deep. So of course, I've been involved in reading a lot of stuff, testing ChatGPT, and then compare it with Gemini, and sometimes you use the same prompt with Anthropic, and so on and so forth. But I cannot say I was deeply involved. Trying to generate some images, some videos, try to check the ability of creating some text, trying to check if these texts were not identifiable as made by AI, not by human, so on and so forth. But was mainly a joke, okay, just of my personal joke. I started to understand that they can become something completely different at the beginning of this year. So I come back to self-programming. So I had time, so I started to program again as I've done like 10 years ago. My level of programming is really, really low. I have to admit that as of today, I really am not able to program as I was able like 10, 15 years ago. So the problem was
but you don't
how I
need
can
to.
no,
That's the thing.
exactly. But I didn't know at that time. I didn't know
Okay.
that time. But so I was so not scared, but I mean, I was so disappointed by myself. And then I started to say, okay, there could be there should be some different way for solving my problem. And then that time has been when I started to really deep dive in all the AI tools. I started to make some experiment, creating my, I'll call it business, let me say, attempt of business, because I work like this, so I need to have like something in mind, and then having something in mind, I can try to find a solution. So I started to think about some business for professionals, and then I started to go deep in the potentiality of AI. And then I created, without knowing that the name was agent, I created my first agent. I created my first agent because I had to manage, let me say, a flow of data with a memory, giving a goal to the system as a control engineer. So I done nothing more than applying my control background to the task that I had to solve. And then I created my first agent, and then I saw the big potentiality and big availability of these technologies. So that's where I understood that the entrance level, again, as I said, it's really, really low. So there is no engineering background needed to start, not at all. But there is a big experience in organization and orchestration that has to be applied to get to your final goal. And that point, I started to compare deeper the agent mode. Then when OpenAI released the agent mode, like 4 months ago, I started to test that agent mode to understand how deep it can go, but also which are the big limit of all of this stuff. Because, for example, there is a big limit of cybersecurity if you do not manage correctly, especially if you want to apply for a business. I mean, as a private, as a person, honestly speaking, there is no limit on this side. But thinking about a business, there are for sure some not trivial issue of cybersecurity, because you want to delegate the research on the web of some specific information to an autonomous system without setting which are the set of website in which you want to look for the information. and then just creating the agentic behavior. But that point, for you can imagine how risky it is if these converge to a business where you want to segregate the information. So there are some challenges that I have not solved at all in this moment. I don't really know how to solve in this moment, but this is opening to me, and let me say, this is helping me to have a better understanding day by day of how I can create a business based on agent.
And the speed of progress is just fascinating. It's quite fast. So what you're saying now, for sure, there is responsibility, right, behind it. So you can just launch and put something on the market, but over time it will get easier with the systems, but also all the hardware behind, right? You mentioned NVIDIA and the chips and everything. What fascinates me is that what we're saying today in 6 months might be almost irrelevant. I don't think personally on that specific point. I still think we will need, I had a conversation on TikTok, believe it or not. I met like a software engineer because I was just vibe coding, right? Something, and I just went live like that. And this person was like, yeah, but you can't, you still need software developers and whatever. I said, I never said we don't need any. But I think this is great to prototype something, not to commercialize it,
No, but that's the point. I mean, you
Yeah.
can really, it's so easy to check if your idea of solution can be a solution. Otherwise, you discard it and you pass to the next one. It's so easy today. And yesterday I've been like in this round table in Rome, and then I explained that if today I think to be in charge of introducing AI in a company, the best way to do it is to give to every employee access to simple tools of prototyping based on AI. Saying them, I give you 1 hour per day or half a day for a week, something like this. And then in that period, you have to find a solution to your problem using this tool and prototype it. If the prototype solve your problem, bring it to me, and then we deploy it. I'm convinced that in just 6 months, 1 year, you have completely changed the DNA of your company. Completely. People will start to be more digital oriented for sure. They will start to look to their process differently, because solve the problem with this prototyping machine, you need to have a simplification approach. For example, you need to simplify the problem, have a good understanding of the process that you want to automate. Just filling a document, you have to have a good understanding of which kind of document. So you have to make some clusters, you have to organize the idea. And last but not least, you have a lot of internal proprietary software that are customized for your company, that works just in your company and that optimize your company. It's incredible.
And this is gold,
That's gold. That's really gold. And I'm not saying that people then will be fired. People then will be allocated to manage and orchestrate all the software that they have created. So my role is to orchestrate and develop and improve the software that I have created for the process that I daily use. Daily I have done for my job operations and deployed to the company. So that's a challenge for the IT. That's a challenge for the executive. But the entrance barrier, it's just the fact that people don't want to do it. There is no reason. It is neither economic. It's just the people, they don't want to do it.
Yeah, but that's always the case, right? People resist it's not even change at this point. It's like willingness to try something else, something new. And it's just a natural reaction to anything that's new, where the brain triggers a bit of resistance in general. So that's why the approach, as you said, just try first and see it for yourself, experiment, play. It's just a mindset shift, and then it will require a behavior shift. But this can become natural. It's not, if we look at ourselves, you and I obviously were born before the era of the smartphones, right? And we saw how they got introduced slowly. Now, none of us can live without a smartphone, and our behaviors change with that. So it's kind of the same thing. And I like that you call yourself an agentic entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's my definition. That's the best one that I found so far.
Does that attract people? Because you're working with traditional manufacturing companies at the moment.
Yeah,
Does it scare them?
It depends. I'm working both in Europe now, supporting a European company, but also outside of Europe. I have to say that for sure there is some cultural fitting for which there are some economical areas that are more interested in understanding what I just mentioned in the beginning. As of today, the big opportunity of AI is that you can create a big machine that is not tangible, that contains the entire know-how of the company. I'm not saying that will manage, grow, no, because I mean the data has to be provided by the real world, means people, real experience. So if you disconnect this know-how system from the rest of the operation, for sure they will lose immediately the entire, let me say, opportunity.
But that's just a point on this one. You're talking about real world data, but then you have a lot mentioning like or talking about synthetic data also.
Of
How would
course,
you mitigate? Yeah.
but synthetic data needs to be developed for what is known as corner case. So every time that you are not able to train your system, letting it test something that is for safety, for example, impossible to be tested, you can simulate it.
No. Yes.
That, and you still have to do it. I mean, that's for sure. But no, what I mean with the real data is that I think that we discussed it during our coffee break. As I mentioned, I
Well,
mean,
now we
the
have to
scheme
share
in
with
which
everyone.
the scheme in which people think that the brain of humans work, it's normally wrong. So I mean, it's not a centralized intelligence system; it's a distributed intelligence system. So our fingers are more are I don't know how to say, but I mean are exponentially more intelligent than ChatGPT probably. I mean, in this moment. My finger is doing a lot of things, is feeling a lot of things that ChatGPT doesn't
Yeah.
feel for.
Hence the word intelligence.
No, it's not intelligence. So it's not an artificial neuron. So I mean, the fact that it's been named as a neural network and it's an artificial neuron is just because this block, the schema that represent the artificial neuron, it's similar to the schema that represent natural neuron. But indeed, if you look at the complexity, they are not comparable at all. Okay, there is, I mean, artificial neurons is just something for which give weight to some data and a probabilistic output to the data that has an input. That's it. Okay. A neuron is something that processes tons of data, complex information provided from internal and external to the body. So, I mean, nothing really comparable to the simplicity of an artificial neuron. This is not intelligence at all. But it's
That's
something
why
that
it's
simulates.
artificial.
It's artificial, and I can say that it's something that simulate or for which we say that that's intelligent. So, for example, we think that it's creative, something that indeed it's an hallucination of a computer. So, hallucination is basically when the system is not being trained for the input that we are giving. So, we give an input, a prompt, and then the system does not data for the answer that we are prompting for the question that we are prompting, and then we consider as human that answer something that is being made with creativeness, with creativity. But this is not creativity; it's the hallucination of the machine. So we are the intelligent people that give intelligence to what we read. That's the intelligent part. Okay. So I mean that's basically at least again why I think that in this moment there is still a lot of improvement to be done to get to a certain point where this level of democracy of achievable technologies can be not only used by everyone. So as you said, everyone that is coming that is arriving as of today in the professional roles, I think that will arrive already with this background and will push a lot of company in transformation using this software and this tool to improve the process, as you said, as has been done for the smartphone. So everyone that has been, there was not smartphone when we in 2022, in 1982, but as of today, it's the normality. And this is also why I consider AI really the next industrial revolution after internet.
So, I mean, there is a lot of hype around AI, obviously. That's why we're in it anyway. But you're building with it every day. Is there like one, let's call it capability, that you think is underrated, where most people, let's say, are missing?
Orchestration. I think that people should be trained more and more in orchestrating complex organization, because in the future, this will be complex organization of models, agents, software, algorithm, call it as you prefer. Is already like this
How would you
with
do
a
it?
that's a really complex question. I
There
can say
isn't
that
one way, but how would you, let's say, approach it? Maybe that's easier.
again, I think that practice in this moment it's the best possible approach. But also explaining people that we are already close to being orchestrator of software somehow in our daily life. So we use a mobile app. Basically, we orchestrate and we define hour per hour, which is the mobile app that we have to use if we train, if we go run, if we have to organize a meeting, blah, 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 blah. So we are already somehow an orchestrator. But in this moment, these mobile apps are static. So there is nothing really to be orchestrated. We just have to say which is, it's just a choice. So I define for this task to use this mobile app, for another task to use another mobile app. But in the future, this mobile app will be dynamic. So they
Yeah,
will be.
because so you're eliminating friction, because there is a lot of friction at the moment, if you think about it. Now
Yes,
we
there is a
think
lot of.
about it, we see there's, yeah.
But in the future, I mean, this system will start to have a small or big action layer. So we'll start to connect between them. So it will be not just a matter of exchanging data. It's a matter of taking better decision, combining the decision of each single mobile app. Okay. Every mobile app will have internally the API of an AI or will be an AI. It's already like this. We are already really close to this. So if you just think that as of today, if you want to train for the marathon, you want to register whatever you eat in a specific mobile app. And then you have a mobile app in which you register your performance. And then it's your
Yeah.
brain that connect the data and understand if there is something that has to be changed in your routine on one side or the other. If you think that tomorrow these two mobile apps will be directly connected with two AI that are able to share decision of what can be the improvement of the plan, of course, based on the training that they had, so will not be perfect. And you have to know that they have been trained with some specific data set, so they are not creating, they are not behaving like a doctor. Do not confuse it with a doctor. But for sure, there will be in a shorter time, there will be convergence to a new plan that has been defined by these two AI. And the final result for you as a user is just a new plan. That's it. That you will see into mobile app, but that's a new plan. And that's the future in which I think that we are going. And not 10 years from now. I think that some of these ideas will start to see and become reality in less than 24 months.
Yeah, you spoke about this in like healthcare, like there are tons of opportunities here. As long as you have your goal, what's best for you, then we can eliminate lots of friction, but also focus on preventive care, not only reactive.
Exactly.
And keep you to your goals. But then if all the systems are integrated, imagine that you won't be able to dictate what you want, even if you change your mind at this point of time, if you're not the last one who can make the decision and change something last minute. I mean, but that would be, I think,
But
we're
you
thinking
touched
about
the
all
point of
scenarios. But
healthcare. So in healthcare, this approach will be a big revolution, because on one side, it will improve the habit that is already there, in which the patient try to understand by itself what's going on. But it do like chatting with ChatGPT, but without transferring all the data, necessary information that are really needed to, I don't want to say give ChatGPT the ability to tell you what you have, but at least to analyze that training set, which is the highest probable scenario in which you are living, in which is your body. If the system started to speak, so if you connect the model and then you have this internet of intelligence, internet of models, call it as you prefer, the paradigm will completely change. And again, it's just a connection of mobile app that already have AI inside. It's nothing more.
yeah, and we're calling them app. We don't know what they may be yet. this point in time anyway.
We will call it up. We will call it up.
Yeah.
We will not change our habits. So, I mean, we still have one app which save one information or the other, probably more centralized, but I don't think that will completely change because, however, we don't like as human too much changes. So there will be a layer of improvement on top of which is our today habit.
Well, I talk to ChatGPT more than I talk to humans sometimes. And like sometimes it happens. It happened once, but then it happened again. I was talking and then someone has answered. And I'm like, why are you answering? You know, I'm not talking to you basically, but it just feels that you're talking to a human. So based on what actually you're saying here, do you think, because you mentioned ChatGPT, I know you mean probably an LLM, not ChatGPT, but do you think that two areas here. We have Google, we have DeepSeek, we have Anthropic, we have many. But do you believe that the infrastructure will be dominated by one of these guys and everything will be built on top? Or
No,
okay.
It's not possible because there is a big issue that all of these companies think that knows very well, that it's the energetic infrastructure. Basically, these create a big limit on the amounts of data that you can use for the training. And based on the data that you decide to use for training, you have some cultural fit. So I think that is being published by Harvard like 1 month ago, 3 weeks ago, a study in which they shown like ChatGPT is closer to the Eastern white democratic countries, something like this. I don't want to say stupidities, and that's a big problem because if you make an analysis of the amount of digital data used as of today by ChatGPT for training is just the 0.1% of the worldwide digital data available. 0.1%. And you already have a big issue in terms of energetic constraint for the training. The larger the amount of data, the bigger the energy that you need, unless you change completely the architecture of the computational unit. That is what some people are trying to do. Okay, so what I believe is that to compensate it, there will be for other areas of the world different LLM with a cultural fit that is strictly related to that area, that are more acceptable for the people that use on the basic, let me say, as a fundamental base of the development. They need to be closer to the final user. Then there will not be just one for everyone. For sure, as European, yes, in the sense that it will be probabilistically, I say, American kind of LLM or similar, because we are like technologically really related to this. But for the rest of the world, there will be others, for sure. It cannot be just one. Too big the data, too big the energy.
Yeah, because I read, I don't know if it was the title of an article or a comment, like whatever, let's say, startups build, one of these guys, like OpenAI, Anthropic, you name it, will just kill in no time.
In which sense?
In the sense that if you have a very specialized startup that's building something with the infrastructure and the back end of one of these companies that I mentioned, these companies will come and will make it available as a feature.
Yeah, of course. That's for sure. I mean, as I said in the beginning of this conversation, I mean, the exponential growth of floating operation that the system are able to make will really explode in the upcoming years. That means that all, let me say, the task solver that are based on AI will be integrated in a good or better prompting of the final user. So again, is not, I think, the competition that entrepreneurially speaking we have to focus, but it's on the introduction of this opportunity inside of our industrial background. And to do it means creating company where a big layer of operation have been automated by agent, and there is a new layer of orchestrator of these agent. That's the vision that I think will be really important to implement in Italy and Europe in the upcoming years.
And you've worked a lot with Asia as well and America, and you're based in Europe. So you said that in Europe, the tendency will be to follow the American companies. But who do you think will win? Because it's a race, whereas we like it or not. Who do you think will be? I know it's kind of a prediction, but what do you think? Even based on your pre-AI or pre-generative AI era.
What I've saw in my career, that is not as long as it's just 15, 20 years, is that for all of these years, I always have seen Europe waiting for something. So without really taking care of the Asian competition on one side, or without really taking care of the technological gap between Europe and US. So as of today, maybe it's brutal, but it's I think that it's the most honest way to say it. We are technologically a colony of US, and for a lot, not all, but a lot of manufacturing goods, manufacturing lines, we are a colony of Asia. And we are in the middle. So there is a big pressure in Europe in this moment. And unless we decide to become a real union, so to make the Union State of Europe, I think that will remain like this. This is, and it will become just worse. We will not be big enough to have our own competition. We had a chance, for example, in the energy, having, if you see, again, just think about, let me say, all the troubles related to this energy issue, especially in Italy for the war between Ukraine and Russia. Instead of investing a lot in new energy, new way of whatever energy, have you seen all this big investment somewhere, a new economy related to solar, to hydrogen, to wind, to whatever, deployed all around Europe with a big investment of the entire European continent to be more independent and have an internal economy that means advantage initially as a niche to be exported then in the future in other countries. I've not seen something like this. So
I haven't
even
either.
even with a big challenge like this, all the countries around Europe has not been able to react in the time that are needed for the reaction. Now you have on one side a guy that is basically saying, I want to stay close for a period. I don't know how many years there will be like this commercial war, something like this. But for sure, this gives US the opportunity to solve some internal issues and reshore some manufacturing production, so on and so forth. On the other side, you have Asia, China, India that want to export. China has a big need of exportation. So even if their market will fall down internally, they have to export because they don't want to close the factories. So they cannot close factories. So the only thing that they can do is to dump price and push and export. They can export in Africa, of course, that is growing, so in the growing economy, but they want to export in Europe too, where there is still a lot of richness. So basically, that's overall the situation. So there is I don't think there will be a winner. There will be different equilibrium. Technologically speaking, technology is available all around the world. So unless there will be, or there is some specific reason why some technology can be better developed in a specific infrastructure instead of the other, there will not be winner, there will be competition. There will be like competition for deploying the most advanced AI, if you want to correlate to the AI, but not a winner and a loser. Unfortunately, if you want to call it loser, I think that Europe will be the loser, or for sure there will not be, will not win. It's not competing. Basically, it's not competing.
Well, it's too late to get started anyway. So, I mean, I don't know. So we spoke about what's underrated. What's extremely overrated when it comes to Gen AI, in your opinion?
The fact that people think that there is some intelligence. There is no intelligence. It's just an algorithm, a really powerful algorithm with a really powerful machine, but there is no intelligence. Intelligence is another thing. There is no evolution unless there is a human that let the system have an evolution. The model does not evolve by itself. So if you don't provide data information, is not connected to the real world as humans do normally. Like in this conversation, we are growing, but not just.
That's a key topic. That's a key topic because our generation, or older generation, a bit younger than us as well, they have some sort of critical thinking and so on to be able to make decisions, but to know what they want, because these LLMs in particular will just give you anything, and someone might think it's amazing if you don't know what you want. You have teenage daughters. How do you see them integrating the workforce in a few years?
The first thing that I want them to develop is critical thinking. I know that they are in a full digital world, and their future will be even more digital and more integrated with intelligence, as we said, not to name it, but that's the name in the future. But to be able to orchestrate, they need to have a learning curve. So they want, I would like them to be conscious of the world and the relation between an input and the output. So that's what I call critical thinking. If they are critical in thinking, they can understand what is thinking and what is not. So they will be more able to understand how to orchestrate this level of technologies. And then, of course, it depends on which they will do in the future. In the future, they have to decide, and this will somehow also define how deep will be their intersection with the AI.
One capability you're waiting for that doesn't exist yet?
No, I don't know. One capabilities that may be useful in the future. I think that it's true that in the future there will be less people able to complete task by hand. Then for sure there is the need. I think that in the future someone will invent an LLM that teach on AI, on a mobile app or whatever, that teach to human how to use hand to do things, like to be a mechanic, an electrician, or something like this, because they cannot do, but someone still knows how to do it. Now there is the big risk of losing all of this historical know-how, and I hope that in the future there will be some job dedicated in maintaining our historical know-how.
The biggest mistake, we kind of touched on this, but I'll try. Biggest mistake you see companies making with AI right now?
Not testing, not using, not implementing, not making a POC, and especially do not involve the entire company or some levels of the company.
And last is going back to the name of this podcast, which is about gut, intuition in a way. Do you trust your gut in work life in general?
A lot. Unfortunately, I take a lot of decision just trusting to my gut feeling instead of thinking too much. But then I am a rational guy, then I need to explain the decision. But I think that most of the time is just to explain and to justify myself why I have taken some decision. I strongly believe that gut is a good pointer.
And last, is there any book you recommend?
No, there are too many books.
Okay.
There are really,
Okay.
I mean, no.
Maybe you should write one then.
I think that in this moment, it's as I said, it's important to read a book that probably do not relate to technology, that are more related to humanity. It's important to do not lose our humanity when we use technology.
I like that closing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you too.